Hey everyone, this is Frank from targettechtalk.com. Today's presentation, we're going to be talking about Tor versus VPN. So this is kind of an interesting security topic to get into. So to start today's presentation, just want to briefly mention kind of the limitations of my website or the disclaimer. So I don't provide any legal advice. So we're going to be talking about some cybersecurity stuff, but just to make it clear, I don't provide, strictly speaking, legal advice. I do have 3 cybersecurity certifications as of the time of this recording. So let's dive into the topic here. So the first point here, Tor, folks that have had some experience in the cybersecurity area or recommendations from others, you may have heard about Tor. It's called the Onion Router, and often it is kind of offered out there as a secure or anonymous alternative to provide you some security about your internet traffic. So we'll kind of dig into this and really kind of go through a comparison point by point with a VPN solution and kind of get into some of the details here. So Tor, if this is new for you, it is an open source software suite. So it includes both a server and a browser. So if you want to use the Tor network, you download the Tor browser, and then that runs against Tor servers. It consists of a network of multiple servers run by volunteers. So they volunteer the bandwidth and the servers themselves. And the objective with Tor, the Onion Router, the Onion part of that is that it consists of multiple hops. So your traffic goes from one Tor server to another server over and over, and thus, in theory, kind of providing a layer of anonymous access and some measure of security there. So that's what the Tor kind of software suite is about. So we'll be comparing that to a VPN. So if you're not familiar with the term VPN, virtual private network, so this is what to look for there in a VPN would be something that provides a full tunnel VPN. So with VPNs, there's some different providers of VPNs. I have an article on the website walking through more detail on VPNs that I did previously, so you can refer back to that. And the video here should have a link to my current article, which also links to the previous article, so you don't have to type that in manually. So we'll be going through a point-by-point comparison here. So let's talk about cost. So the Tor is free and clear, so it's open source, no fees, no subscriptions or costs or anything like that. The individuals running the servers do so for free and provide the bandwidth associated with those servers. So that's kind of the Tor side. VPN, there's different varieties, and there can be some specific pros and cons with the different VPN options that are out there. But costs at a high level, there is some free options for sure, and some that are both free and paid. So Proton VPN, I'll be talking about them a lot. They have a free option as well as a paid option. So the thing to watch out for with some free VPNs is that they actually sell the user info to third parties. So that varies from VPN provider to VPN provider. So Tor, there's only one Tor. It's one network and one browser you use, and it's kind of locked in. So that's a consistent answer. VPNs, the answer varies quite a bit from one VPN provider to another. So just kind of proceed with some caution there, and I make some recommendations, but there's some you really need to evaluate VPN providers on a case-by-case basis, because some are better than others for sure. So speed and reliability, Tor can be fairly slow. It's definitely going to be slower than a VPN. I used Tor in some of the early days, and it was snail's pace. It's better now. but just kind of set your expectations that there is a limited amount of servers and bandwidth if you're using the Tor network. So don't expect it to be screaming fast. It can be usable, as an option. Reliability can be. It's not as generally not going to be as good as VPN reliability. It's getting better. It's pretty good. The early days of Tor was pretty rough, but it's getting better. It's definitely usable, but you may see some drops in connection and some slowness. VPN, a lot of times the free options may be slow or bandwidth limited. The paid options are generally going to be pretty fast. Some of the free options are also fast, kind of depending on the provider or specific traffic that day. So again, it's a variability within VPN, but in general, a paid VPN is going to be quite zippy. Okay, so anonymity. So this is definitely one of the advantages of the Tor network. The network includes enough hops that it's highly unlikely. Some people use the word impossible. I would use the word highly unlikely that you can trace an individual user to their source. So it just hops back and forth, and this network is not public, so it's kind of going back and forth so many times within the Tor network that it's really making that very difficult to trace your traffic back to you. So from that perspective, it does provide a pretty high level of anonymity. A VPN itself is not anonymous, so you need to kind of dig into what you mean by anonymity and kind of the different components of that. So you do log into a VPN with credentials, typically. Even the free ones, typically you'll be required to create an account. VPN does provide anonymity and encryption between you and your internet service provider, which is definitely a good advantage. So if you're using a VPN connection, the company that is providing you internet service, if you're using a full tunnel VPN, which I recommend, your ISP really just sees an encrypted block that you go to your VPN provider. They can tell that you were using it as of a certain time, so they know your data usage, but beyond the fact that you were using a VPN, they see no details. So that can definitely be an advantage of VPN. So, but keep in mind, there's some variability from VPN provider to VPN provider, but generally you do need to log into a VPN to use it. I'll talk some more about specific recommendations and some of the details there, but a VPN is typically a login process. As well as, so you have anonymity with your internet service provider. So they basically see an encrypted connection, as well as the websites you visit. Keep in mind, if you're using Tor or you're using VPN and you go to website X and log into website X with your credentials, your anonymity goes out the window, of course. You've logged in with your credentials. So that site knows who you are. So just kind of keep in mind what services you're using and what logins you do. Where you logged in from, that can be anonymous, depending on the options here. But just kind of keep in mind your behavior as well as the option you pick here. Regions. Generally, you're not going to get a lot of region support with Tor. VPNs do allow you to pick regions. So if that's something important to you, Tor, you're just bumping around the network. And it can be, it's kind of a random pick of where you end up, and you can't really, decide you want to browse from a certain region. VPNs do allow you that flexibility, so that's definitely one in the column for VPNs. Restrictions and blocking. This is kind of a case-by-case basis on internet service providers. Some of them just outright block connections to the Tor network. The Tor network in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a tool for anonymity, but it is associated sometimes with people who use it, might be doing dark web kind of stuff, and some ISPs just say, we're just not even going to mess with that. We're going to block the whole thing. So that is something to be aware of. If you're from your home connection or a given connection and you can't log into Tor, be aware that that is something that happens sometimes. Your ISPs or wherever you're logging into may have restrictions on Tor. So if you're from the library, you might not be able to do that. From a coffee shop, you may or may not. It's kind of up to them. But blocking Tor is a thing. It's not a 100% thing, but be aware that is a thing. ISPs generally do not block reputable VPNs. If you have kind of a free one that's may not be totally reputable, those sometimes can get blocked. But like the mainstream popular and reputable ones are typically pretty well accepted with internet service providers. It's really, they do block some VPNs, but it tends to be the sketchy ones, the ones that are not reputable. A lot of times they'll be the free ones that might also have some bad traffic associated with the people who use them. So that's kind of a difference there. Gotchas. So this was an interesting article to kind of get into the details of. There is some gotchas associated with each of these. So it's not a slam dunk. I do have some recommendations and for me, there's kind of a clear winner, but we'll kind of go through this depending on your situation. So for one of the big gotchas with Tor that they don't really like to advertise is the exit node. So you go through this network, ping, 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 through the Tor network. The exit node has the ability to view your website names as well as any unencrypted traffic. So that, it's really a roll of the dice who controls that last server, what country they're in, any details like that. So that, depending if you're consider yourself a targeted individual or whistleblower or something like that, Tor could be good for, just because of the hops, it is hard to block. There's not a single person they can go back to and kind of lean on to get the details. But keep in mind the exit node situation. So the exit node, you don't know who's running that server. Is it a reputable person or is it somebody that under influence? They're not supposed to view the traffic, and in many cases it could be it could be against the law for them to do so. But really, you don't know who controls the server, and that exit node has the ability to see your DNS traffic for sure, and it can see any unencrypted traffic. So if you're not using TLS, SSL for your connections, any traffic you send could be visible to that, is definitely visible to that last node. If they're playing by the rules and just ignoring things, then you don't have a problem, but you really don't know who controls that last node. So that's really kind of the hidden gotcha with the Tor network. With VPNs, there could be a gotcha as well. VPN companies need to comply with any court orders they're provided. So if you pick a VPN provider and their server or their company is based in the U.S. and you're concerned about FISA courts or U.S. concerns, if they're provided a court order, they just need to hand it over. There's no option. So that can definitely be a limitation of VPNs as well. My analysis, my pick is really kind of breaks down. It's, number one, it depends what you, how you kind of classify yourself as a regular user. Tor is free, so that could be a good option. A reputable free VPN is a good option. I would say if you're somebody who considers yourself a targeted individual or whistleblower, then kind of pay attention to my analysis that I'm kind of adding on top of here. I would say that the best option overall, if you can afford it, and I don't have any sponsorship or any association with the companies, I just recommend it on based on my research and my personal use. The best paid option that I can see is Proton VPN. And I think it's currently around $13 a month for the full Proton subscription, which would include VPN as well as other services. I'm just focusing on VPN here. The thing that's nice about them is they have implemented a no logs policy. So while they do need to comply, they're based in Switzerland, which is nice. So they have strong privacy protections. They do need to comply with Swiss court orders. The nice thing is they have implemented a no logs policy with their VPN, which basically means if they get a court order for somebody's VPN traffic, they say, that's great. I have no logs. I can give you nothing. They can give them that person's name if they logged in. They can give you the information you sign up with. They can identify your name and your address, your sites you visit, any details they cannot provide because they don't have them. So that is very nice. So VPNs, again, is case by case. So you have to be careful which one you choose. So I've got, even this no logs thing was something I uncovered with this article, which kind of adds some additional weight to Proton VPN as a good option. There's other VPN providers out there. If you don't consider yourself a targeted individual, you're not concerned about FISA court, things like that. There is other reputable VPN companies. If you are concerned about FISA courts and things like that, then, and influence over U.S. companies, that kind of thing, Proton VPN is hands down the pick. There's really, there's nothing stronger. And especially with the no logs policy on the VPN side, it is a win-win. So if you can't afford that $13 a month, you can actually connect directly to the Swiss server with your Proton VPN connection, which is even better. That's why I recommend the paid version if you can swing it. If you're not in a position to do so financially, you need to make priorities or other things. There's a free version of Proton VPN, which means all the company information would fall under that. So anything that Proton would also apply the no logs policy. That would be a little bit weaker because if you connect to a server that's in a region that's not Switzerland, then there could be additional questions that, Proton themselves has no logs, but the data center running it, where that server lives. Is there a backdoor there? Is there, some mechanism that they could be logging, that kind of thing. But still pretty good. So if you can't afford the $13 a month, the second best option would be free Proton VPN. Proton themselves would be no logs where the servers are hosted. There could be something there, but it's far better to have a free trusted VPN than other options. So that's kind of my rundown. And then second best would be, I guess second best would be free. And then Tor could be an option over a regular network. So if I had a choice between using a plain vanilla internet connection and using Tor, I would probably pick Tor because Tor would provide an extra layer of anonymity. For people that identify as targeted individuals, I would also add for the Proton option, even if you're at the point of thinking you have no privacy, you still might want to consider using something like the free Proton VPN or even the paid Proton VPN, because if that connection is encrypted, your ISP can't see it. Then your ISP can't volunteer that information to you, something like a FISA court or something like that. So something to consider there as well. So that is my analysis and recommendations for this video. Thanks, everyone. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.